This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk Sunday, stream of consciousness. A little couple minutes late here, not too bad. I was on. I go on Mac and Jack in the morning, 8 o'clock, and it's always hard to get out of there because we're in the middle of conversation. So I appreciate you guys being with me here this morning. It's an interesting fall day. It's a little dreary out there, but I think it's going to be 50 degrees. No Patriots today as we lost on Thanksgiving. We'll talk a little about those Thanksgiving Day games in today's games. We'll talk to college football, and the chaos that Keith has been rooting for is coming to fruition. Clemson out, LSU out. Who knows who's in? We'll talk a lot about some of the scenarios coming up. Some coaching news with David Shaw retired. David Shaw retiring or resigning. We talked about the NFL. We'll talk some Major League Baseball as well. Who knows? Maybe a little college basketball even. We'll see what happens. We'll go where you guys want to go today. And look at here, CA right out of the gate, screaming good morning. Good morning, CA. Great to have you with us, and hope you're having fun on your trip around the world. Morning, Kenny. Morning, Kenny. And Neil, good morning to you. I said that. Well, I didn't say there. I didn't. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. You said they would be ruined. I said they would win by 3 touchdowns, 30 points maybe even this week because they needed style points. Great job by North Carolina. Great job by Shane Beamer. Didn't see Spencer Rattler's numbers yesterday, but great job out of the gate. Listen, CA, here's the thing. Chaos may not be done. If USC loses next week, if TCU loses next week, if LSU beats Georgia, Georgia's in no matter what. Who knows? Alabama gets back in the picture here. I said all along they couldn't. Well, the type of chaos I've been rooting for can happen. That number 4 team, and we talked about it a little bit in the chat room, would it be today? Would it be Ohio State or Alabama? I think it's Ohio State. And it's because somebody's got to be 4th. If we had a 12-team playoff, this would be pretty simple, right? Alabama be in, Clemson be in, Ohio State be in, and any one of those teams outside of maybe Tulane or UCF, whoever finishes ahead in that conference, would have a chance to win. It's been a crazy season, but they got to have 4 teams. It's very hard to pick the 4th best team in the country right now. This could all break out very cleanly next week. We'll talk more about it. And listen, I want to welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter this morning. Everybody that'll watch this later. The groups, thank you for letting me share it. And we're live here on my TGI Sports Talk page, the Northeast Streaming Sports page. And you'll even see this on Let's Talk Sports later on. Defense and special teams win this game. Rick, as Rick talked about, I didn't say good morning. I think I put your guys' stuff up here. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Rick. Special teams are a problem everywhere. Rick points it out every week. And I'll tell you another thing. Defense, as you say here too, Neil, defense is atrocious across the league. For the most part, there are some teams that play some decent defense. Georgia plays some decent defense, but you're going to see some scores in this playoff. I think that are going to be through the roof. You assume USC gets in, they don't play any defense. No, they played better last night, but they're playing a pretty pedestrian Notre Dame offense. Sorry, Kenny. So it's going to be very interesting. Let me get the banner up. We're going to talk a lot of college football, even though we got the college football huddle on Wednesdays. Don't forget. But we got a lot of college football to chat about today. We'll talk. Let me go through the scores quickly that matter. We'll talk about some other relevant scores. Come on, where's my mouse? Can't find my mouse. There we go. You ever get one of those days? Well, I have them like every day where you can't do anything right. Let's go through the scoreboard quickly. Actually, you guys can put some more comments up, and we'll tackle those. It's gonna be us today for 2 hours. Mark Mancini's busy covering the Clippers game, I think today. And we'll start getting Jim Bearing. I can't do hockey until we get through this college football. Then we're going to get Jim on. Jim was on with us last Wednesday, and I'll have him on this Wednesday to talk some college football as well. Ranked games, Ole Miss, some news there too. We got some coaching news to talk about. I said all along, I did make a comment Wednesday that Lane Kiffin was rumored to be the head coach of Auburn by Friday. Lane Kiffin, I said all along this year, arguing with the Mad New Yorker and some others, that Lane Kiffin, I think, has found a sweet spot for himself at Ole Miss, and he signed a long-term contract, which is worth nothing, by the way. I freely admit that. As Hugh Freeze is right now the leading candidate for Auburn, and he just signed like an 8-year extension with Liberty like 15 minutes ago. We'll get into more of that, too. So anyway, Ole Miss loses the Egg Bowl to Mississippi State. Florida State beats Florida. Florida was way ahead in this game. If I remember, maybe they weren't. Well, I feel like they were ahead like 28-10. I didn't watch it. North Carolina loses a barn burner to North Carolina State. Drake May now totally out of the Heisman race. He might have been the leader before last week. Last 2 games have killed him. Caleb Williams, I believe, won the Heisman last night, just to be clear. UCLA beats Cal 35-28. Tulane coming back. In this game, this was a pretty good game against Cincinnati. It was a lot of fun if you'd watched it. I bet Tulane myself. 4 for 4 this week, by the way, so far in the cigar box, and 10 of my last 11. Tulane now will get UCF, and we'll talk about the conference playoffs, conference championships in a little bit. Tulane now gets a rematch with UCF, who beat them just a few weeks ago. Texas, in a crazy game, beat Baylor 38-27. USC, 38-27 over Notre Dame. I don't even think it was that close, to be honest with you. And if you watch some of the game, look, I thought what the heck is the quarterback's name now? Good grief. Williams won this Heisman last night. I really do. But we'll see. I think it's him and C.J. Stroud and nobody else. And Stroud didn't play well enough yesterday. We'll get to in a second. Georgia had a tougher than expected, as I thought. They ended up winning the game by 23 points. But Georgia Tech gave them a game for a while, as I thought they would. Georgia now, whatever happens, Georgia's in. LSU could beat them in the SEC championship. There's no way Georgia falls out. The SEC haters think that if LSU beats them out, there's a chance there'll be no SEC teams. I don't see that scenario. There's no way Georgia's overall, what's the word I'm looking for? Their overall book of business is good enough. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's good enough. Yesterday, though, the thing that will hurt them, what will hurt Ohio State, sorry. We're moving on to Ohio State and Michigan. After a close first half, and Ohio State looking early in this game like they might blow Michigan out. They were having their way with them. And then they had to settle for a couple of field goals, and then Michigan just got it together. J.J. McCarthy played great. Those wideouts played great. Edwards played great. Michigan is definitely a much better team than Ohio State. There's no argument you can make that Michigan is not a better team than Ohio State. And Michigan pretty much solidified their place. They could lose the Big Ten championship game and still get in, given the situation we have. That's not going to happen. They're going to beat Purdue. TCU, and what I thought might be a close game yesterday, they absolutely steamrolled Iowa State 62-14. We may be in a place where Iowa State, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble today. TCU, if they were to lose to Kansas State in a close game, they could still be in maybe. That's what the chaos I'm talking about. There are no sure things here. except Georgia in my mind. LSU, 3 losses. Said they better be careful of Texas A&M. They get crushed 38-23. This was, Texas A&M's championship game, and they did a great job yesterday. Alabama rolls over Auburn. I mentioned the rumors about Auburn and the head coach. The Iron Bowl is not what the Iron Bowl used to be. It was just a leftover yesterday. Nobody even talked about it. South Carolina, great game against Clemson. Neil, congratulations. I know that you picked this team to win. Might be because of your allegiances, but for whatever reason, they win. They're 8-4, 3-2 in the conference. Great job by Shane Beamer rebuilding this program on the fly. 2 years, I think. This is the second year. Great job. Oregon State over Oregon. Sorry, Augustine, if you're here this morning. I bet Oregon State yesterday. Rick made some comments. I was out to dinner, and I didn't see the end of this game. I do know that Oregon State was down 31-17. Some boneheaded coaching decisions here late in the game. And Oregon State ends up winning the game 38-34. Tennessee 56-0 over Vanderbilt. It won't matter for anything now. Penn State rolls over Michigan State. Of course they do, because, it's not a top 10 team. Kansas State rolls over Kansas to solidify their place in the Big 12 championship game. Washington, in a game that I bet Washington last night as well. I couldn't stay up and watch it. The game didn't start till 10:30. I was up till almost halftime. This game was going back and forth, and then Washington just took control in the fourth quarter. Utah just dismantles Colorado. Also, rumors out there that Colorado has made an official offer to Deion Sanders to take the head coaching job. I do not see any circumstance where Deion Sanders takes the Colorado head coaching job. I'd be shocked. UCF beats South Florida 46-39, and Kentucky beats formerly Red Hot Louisville in an interstate battle. Who knows what this game was called? They're all called something. They win 26-13. So a lot of these games will have impact. Now I'll get to some of your comments, and we'll roll through those. Oh, where we got to go? Let's see. Alan, who would have thought Michigan would go into the shoe, I think you mean, and win that big? No, I didn't think they'd win that big. I thought they had a chance to win the game. Listen, this is a better football team than it was last year. Problem was their best player was a non-factor yesterday. I believe he only rushed for 6 yards, didn't play after the first few series. Talking about Corum, took himself probably out of the Heisman race as well, but injuries do that. I think this is Caleb Williams and Stroud's award to win. LSU would knock Bama out of the playoffs again. No, they wouldn't. LSU beating Georgia would probably help Alabama. Improves that loss. LSU is not getting in. LSU will not get in if they win the SEC championship. Not with 3 losses. It was debatable they get in with 2. So LSU's season's over. Maybe you're talking about if they played. I'm not sure. But this win, a win next week against Georgia, would help Alabama's chances. And I don't want to see Alabama in there. Ohio State is not out, period. Again, they lost big. But the problem is, Kenny, you got to have 4 teams in there. As I said in the chat this morning, the rules say you got to have 4. You can't go with 3. And tell me right this second, an interesting thing to watch this weekend, or I'm sorry, Tuesday, is how far how far Ohio State falls. And I made a note here, how far somebody else falls. Oh, well, where's my rankings? Jesus. Where'd my rankings go? Somebody steal them? There we go. How far Ohio State falls, how far LSU falls, those are all important things. Well, I guess it's where Alabama gets ranked this week is really the other note that I had made. Ohio State they don't have another game. That's the problem, right? They don't play another game. They can't enhance their resume. It's done. But the overall body of work is pretty good, and they're still going to have a chance. Here's the thing. If Tennessee hadn't lost last week to South Carolina, they would be a shoo-in now without even reaching the SEC championship. Michigan's likely in, win or lose, and I don't see them losing to Purdue. TCU now is in a place where they could be in, even with a loss in their conference championship game. But, if Michigan loses, TCU loses, Georgia loses, Georgia's in, USC loses, well, Ohio State and Alabama are still alive if those conference championships go badly for the favorites. It's, again, I'm not saying it'll happen, but I'm saying Ohio State's not out of the conversation. That's a bad loss. It's one loss. It's at home on national TV, but Ohio State's a brand name, and they're going to get consideration here, depending on what happens. Case in point, not sure what we'll talk about. Oklahoma and Texas. Yeah, well, again, who wants to? Is that football? Maybe I'm wrong. You guys are all football fans. I don't care about watching games that are in the 80s and 90s and 100s. They're awful to watch. Looking to see if Carlos wants to represent me when I apply for the. Is that what? What the ST coach? What? I don't know what coach that is. ST. I'm losing something here, Rick. I know I'm missing a joke, and I don't know what it is. OSU hasn't had opportunities for playoffs. No, they have a chance. It's not slim. Seriously, guys. If TCU and USC lose next week, the Georgia LSU game is probably irrelevant, except for where Georgia gets seated. If USC and TCU lose next week, I guarantee you Ohio State and Alabama are in the conversation. They'd love to find a way to get Alabama. And I love all this, by the way. I'm rooting for it because I want the chaos that I've talked about now for 3 weeks, because I want this 12-team playoff to come next year, not 26. Even 24 would be better. There's Rattler's numbers. Rattler, I thought the change of senior would help him, and it really hasn't, Neil, right? I mean, outside of a couple big games last week especially, Rattler, his first name's Spencer Rattler, right? He's an enigma, and he's going to have trouble getting drafted. He may get drafted, and some guy's going to get fired for picking him. Hopefully, he doesn't pick him too high. Primetime is not going to Colorado. I would bet my coffee, not my life. Deion, what's Deion going to do in Boulder? Ain't going to play in Boulder. Plus, the team is in disarray. If he doesn't get it this year, and I do think he'll get an opportunity this year, whether it's at Georgia Tech, whether it's at Auburn, or maybe he'll sit back and wait for Florida State to open up. Deion can get a better job than that. And Colorado, listen, they've had spurts through the years where they've been good. They're not good and haven't been for a while. Williams or Max Duggan would be. Duggan will probably be a finalist. He'll get invited. I don't think he'll win. I think Caleb Williams won this award last night. That 80-yard run last night, if you saw it, he won the Heisman with that play. That's my thoughts. And again, who knows? I think Duggan will finish third because of where he plays. Good morning, Anthony. I just gave up on Oregon last night. Oregon didn't play well. It hasn't played well the last few weeks. They got really hot after they got killed by Georgia early in the year, and they've just cooled right off. SEC winner is in. Not if it's LSU. Nope. LSU does not make this playoff if they beat it. They're not going to beat Georgia anyway. But if LSU were to shock the world and beat Georgia, they are not making a playoff. Not with 3 losses. Not going to happen. The committee's never put a team with 2 losses in. You think they're going to go to an LSU team, a middle of the pack team, and put them in with 3 losses? Not going to happen. Especially when one of those losses is to one of the worst teams in the country, at least in the conference. Biggest disappointment of the how many years you want. Watching Ohio State was like watching the Cowboys. Yeah, there were a lot of penalties in that game, not well coached. Ryan Day did not step up. Ryan Day outcoached by Jim Harbaugh all day long. Not the biggest Jim Harbaugh fan. Jim Harbaugh did a great job getting this team ready to play this game. And Jim Harbaugh's done a tremendous job there the last 2 years after they slashed his salary almost in half, made him make changes on his staff. He flirted with the NFL. Now he just needs to go win a playoff game. It's not the same teams year in and year out, Kenny. Not this year. TCU's never been there. USC's never been there. Never. Michigan, 1 year. Alabama's likely out. Ohio State's not in every year. But again, when it goes to 12 teams, Kenny, you're going to have a much better selection. You're going to see that power or that group of 5 representative most likely be in the playoff every year. That's what I want to see. If you had a 12-team playoff this year, every single game, I'm not saying they all be competitive because you're going to get blowouts. But every single game, you'd have a chance for an upset. Every single game. And we'll look at that Wednesday night after the rankings because I can find, what the 12-team playoff would have been. And we've looked at it each and every Wednesday night. And we'll look at it again. And this year, though, Kenny, you will likely have some different teams. You're likely to have TCU and USC who have never been there. Maybe that's what you're saying. Maybe I didn't read it right. Let's see. I don't know. I lost your here it is. It's the same teams year in out, which makes you'll have a better draw this year unless you just don't want to watch TCU and USC. And not to say that they're gimmies, but I do think TCU is likely in either way right now. Matt Rule is a new coach at Alabama, signed an 8-year contract yesterday. Kenny, I think, asked in the group, was it a good hire? It's a great hire. Matt Rule failed on the pro level. Don't let that fool you into thinking he's not a good football coach. He quickly turned around two programs that were in total disarray. Temple, who's never been any good, he made them relevant, got them to bowl games. Then he goes to Baylor, which was reeling after Art Briles leaving there and all the lack of institutional control with the players out just committing atrocious crimes and bad behavior all over the place. Matt Rule did a great job with Baylor, which he cashed in on the Carolina job. I think Matt Rule's a college football coach, and I think Matt Rule will do very well in Nebraska. It's going to take a couple of years, and the Big Ten's not the Big 12, but I think Matt Rule will be fine. A lot of coaching news. As I said, David Shaw resigned yesterday. Hugh Freeze rumored to be the leading candidate now at Auburn after just signing a huge extension at Liberty. Those extensions mean nothing. This is why I can't get upset. I'm not a huge fan of the portal and free agency basically for kids. And I think Kenny brought this up yesterday. You have to have it. When coaches can just leave, when they can come into a kid's living room and say, I want you at whatever university for the next 4 years, son. And then he's gone before you ever get to campus. Listen, I'm not knocking CU. The program could do well. The program's been in shambles, though, except for a couple of years since Bill McCarthy retired, right? CA. And they've had some good runs. They'd have been better off staying in the Big 12 than going to the Pac-12. And as it turns out, maybe they make their way back there. I don't know. It's just, you think that's a good fit for Deion? I don't. He would light up the area. He's going to light up any area. But Deion's going to have trouble recruiting to Colorado, I think. And it's not a knock on Colorado, I promise you. I do not think Deion wants that job. I think Deion wants to stay in the Southeast where he's close to Florida, can recruit in Florida or coach in Florida. And I think that's where Deion's going to stay. I could be wrong. Maybe he takes this job. If he gets it and does well, don't expect him to be there very long. He would have I'm not saying he wouldn't have an impact. Deion Sanders, it's funny. People see the prime time and the show and all that, extracurricular stuff that Deion the show he likes to put on. He's turned out to be a damn good football coach and a really good recruiter. And if it's because of the NIL, whatever. He's playing under the same rules as everybody else, and he got the best cornerback in the country last year. One win. That's a one-loss OSU team will get in over one. I probably would. But that doesn't mean USC or TCU wouldn't get in. It all depends on what else happens. Again, remember, there's got to be 4 teams. So again, when I say Ohio State, still much in the conversation. TCU, if they lose to Kansas State in a close game, still in the conversation. Because when I look past and USC, even if they lose, still in the conversation. Because once you get past those 5 teams, who do you have left? LSU is not getting in. Win or lose, not getting in. Alabama, maybe gets back into the conversation. Maybe, if some of the chaos we talk happens. Clemson can't get back in. Oregon's not getting back in. Tennessee's not getting back in the conversation. Penn State, not getting in the conversation. Kansas State, doesn't matter. 3 losses, not getting in. Just lost my screen, of course. There we go. Washington, not getting in. Utah, not getting in. Notre Dame, not getting in. There's no other candidates. Let's look. It's common sense. So all of these teams could lose next week and still have a chance to get in. They all can't get in, but you have to have 4 teams. And the SEC champion, Georgia's one of them. Georgia's in, win or lose. LSU's out, win or lose. Once you guys add that, you might as well just not add it because I don't know what it goes to. Buckeyes have the better win in Penn State, while Bama's best win is Texas, which isn't a great win. Mississippi's a pretty good win for Alabama. And is Penn State a great win for anybody? Penn State had no chance against the Buckeyes. I don't consider that a great win. Is it the best wins of the teams that we're talking about? Yeah. No, I'm not saying Alabama gets in over. I just said I don't think Alabama can get in. So my point is, these 4 teams that are there and USC are the only contenders, regardless of the situations next week. Or, well, it will matter because if TCU wins and USC wins, they're in with Michigan and Georgia. But if one of them loses, Ohio State's back in the conversation because LSU can't get in. Special teams are awful. I mean, it's gotten so I don't even want to talk about it. On every level of football, it's a joke. Watch the NFL games on Thursday night. My team loses because of special teams. Special teams yesterday. Missed field goals, missed extra points, penalties on special teams. There was a play in the Michigan, a key play. Ohio State's still in the game. They commit a personal foul on a punt. Ohio State does. And gives Michigan great field position, which, quite frankly, they might have scored on the very next play. J.J. McCarthy had his coming out party yesterday. He's shown he can throw the football. Screw the brand names. What is wrong with college football? That's what. Well, Kenny, we're talking. First of all, you can't have. Well, you're going to have a 12-team playoff, which, I mean, the brand names have to be. And it's not that they're not any good. The brand names don't have a chance if they're 8-4. The brand names happen to be the best teams in football. And TCU is not a brand name. So this is 2 years in a row without a brand name in the playoff. Michigan, brand name, never been in the playoff until last year. Now, Georgia and Alabama and Clemson, I mean, one of them has been in the final probably every year since the I could be wrong, since the playoffs started. Michigan's not losing to Purdue. Have you watched Purdue play this year? They lost to Syracuse, who did get their 7th win yesterday. They broke their 5-game losing streak. But I don't see any way Michigan loses this game to Purdue. Purdue might make a game of it for a while. Michigan's big problem, and you saw it again yesterday, they get off to slow starts. Come playoff time, that may hurt them because they can't count on J.J. McCarthy to be able to throw the football, you know, and bring this team back from a couple of touchdowns down. Neil, Colorado and Georgia Tech have openings. Todd Monken might be the front runner at Georgia Tech. He's been mentioned for all these openings. Isn't there another one in the ACC? I guess not. I'm thinking of Auburn, I guess. He'll come up for the Auburn job, but I will counsel anybody not to take the Auburn job. Those fans are so unrealistic. They've won national championships twice, and their coach was gone within 2 years. There's zero stability there. There's zero sense of reality at Auburn. No, Patriots aren't after Rattler, by the way. Patriots are set at quarterback for the time being. If you see a quarterback drafted this year by the Patriots, I'll be shocked. And if it is, it'll be very late. If we truly love football, we want to see excellence on both sides of the ball. Nothing cheap, no matter the scores. Is it? Well, again, all right, so to your argument, CA, if I'm understanding it correctly, if you're watching a 50-48 game, you're seeing no excellence on defense. That's my point. I don't want to watch, video game football. Yes, I want to see good football played. That's what I watch for. I really do. I want to see good football games. Aren't that many times I get to see them? Tulane and Cincinnati was a really good football game on Friday, if you got a chance to watch it. That's the kind of game I want to watch. There were big defensive plays. There were big offensive plays. There were big special teams plays. McCarthy, he can't throw the ball, though. That's been the knock on him. Yesterday, he threw the ball very well. Now, he's got to prove he can do that on a consistent basis. If you watch him throwing the ball 2 weeks ago against Illinois, not a bad Illinois team. They were lucky to get out of there with a win because he can't throw the football consistently. Accuracy is a big problem for him. Now, yes, he had a great game yesterday. I'm not taking anything away from him. And he's a much better athlete than McNamara. So this is a better team with McCarthy playing quarterback. But what I'm saying is they can't fall behind. They can't have these slow starts they've been having. Remember, they've been tied with teams at halftime like Rutgers and then blown them out in the second half. And even yesterday they did it against a very good Ohio State team. But let's just say they're playing Georgia in the first round and they fall behind, 20-3. They're not coming back. Who's that, Kenny? Who's not in yet? Michigan? I think Michigan's in, win or lose, but I'm not sure who you're referring to there. Guys, remember, there's a lot of comments here and a lot of conversations going at once, so it's hard for me to remember who they are, who we're talking about when you put that in you. And I'm looking back at the comments, and I'm trying to decide. I guess Michigan is. I'm assuming Kenny's talking about Michigan. Whoops. Speaking of coaching, Michigan State way over. Listen, I've talked about this a lot for a lot of this year. Michigan jumped because they knew Mel Tucker was talking to LSU. He just had a really good season, and they way overpaid for him. 10 years, $75 million. The numbers are whatever. They're close. But now you put yourself in a position just like Texas A&M has done with Jimbo. You can't afford to buy him out for years. Because not only are they giving these guys these contracts, Rick, they're guaranteeing the money. So the buyout is whatever you owe me unless you find a way to fire him for cause, which Texas A&M has been trying to do with Jimbo. But Mel Tucker, since he signed that extension, that has not been a good football team. If they go to 12 and 3 team, it's possible. We don't know that for sure because you're going to have, what is it? You're going to have the top 6 ranked conference winners, which let's just assume right now is Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC. Is that only 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Clemson, only 2 losses. That's 5. Boy, you might, because now you got to get to, now you're going to get because all these other teams, you're going to get to Tulane. No, Tulane, let's just say Tulane wins. That's a 2-loss team, right? So the at-larges now go to the 6 highest ranked teams that didn't win their conference. So you'd have Ohio State, 1 loss. You'd have LSU would not make it because they're going to drop far enough now with 3 losses. They wouldn't make it. Alabama. Oh, it depends on how far Oregon. Washington will be ahead of Oregon, 2 losses. Tennessee, 2 losses. Penn State, 2 losses. So a 3-team right now, Anthony, at least. And it's unlikely this will change because a lot of these teams don't play next week that have 2 losses. I don't think a 3-team team right now would make the playoff. It's inevitable that one will, but I still would rather see this than what I got now. Tulane did beat Kansas State. Good call there, Alan. Their problem. No, I said too that Tulane. If there was a 12-team playoff, Tulane would. I think any game could have an upset. I think 11 of the teams could win the national championship. And I think even Tulane could possibly generate an upset. I just don't think they can generate, 3 of them. Mac and Jack talked about second place in the North. Who's in first? Congratulations on your win Thursday night, by the way, Rick. Team played well. Hang on a second. I'm not done with college yet. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. This is the main team. No. Again, but what about now? It doesn't matter. 3 of those teams are not getting in. 3 of those teams are not getting in the playoff, Kenny. Alabama, Clemson are the teams that have been in the most. And simply because they've been the best teams. Right? I mean, there's no disputing over the course of the time we've had this 14 playoff. Alabama and Clemson have been the best teams, followed by Georgia and Ohio State. You missed Georgia here. Georgia's been in here a bunch too. And Oklahoma's only been in a couple of times. Help me out, Alan, but I don't think Oklahoma's been in more than twice, maybe 3 times. Maybe, I want to say twice, because for a few years, when they didn't have a championship game, they were consistently overlooked the champion there. Barney Rubble. Is there a Barney Rubble with Fred Flintstone there in Dallas? I didn't say, as far as Alabama's win, that's fine. I'm not disputing. I don't think Alabama should be in. I'm not trying to make that argument. Muff Punt by Oregon turned that game around. Beavers only completed 6 passes all game and put up 34 points. Doesn't matter how you do it, only matters if you do it. And this time, Oregon shot themselves in the foot. More bad special teams play. Rick, I didn't see the play you were referring to at the 29-yard line. I'm assuming very late in the game. You could see Michigan TCU. That's the best matchup for TCU. I mean, TCU Georgia would not be a good matchup. TCU and USC would be a good matchup. A lot of points scored there, and I don't think you'll see that. But Biddies for Tuesday will be the one they want to finish at this point. Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC. Well, that's the only 4 that can be there this week. CA. I don't think there's any controversy in that ranking, right? So the only thing that throws that off is if one of those teams, except Georgia, because Georgia's in win or lose. I think Michigan's in win or lose. But if TCU and USC lose, it opens the conversation for Ohio State. It opens the door, maybe just for Ohio State, maybe Alabama as well. Auburn had a sneak pay. Oh, God. Listen, this stuff was happening all over the country, Neil, all over the country. This wasn't anything that Auburn did that was different than Alabama does. USC was doing it for years. Now it's legal. Reggie Bush wants his Heisman back. But, you can't, they changed the speeding laws today. I don't get to go back all the money I got for speeding tickets over the years. Way down. I'm not sure. You want good football, get rid of all the new rules that tell. Well, listen, I don't have a problem with that at all, Kenny. It doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. Every rule change gets made to help offenses. Baseball, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Football, defensive backs have like 0 chance against wide receivers. I don't disagree. Mike McCarthy. The top 6 brands are, or should have been 8 from the beginning and 8 now. They should go to 16. I don't like the buys either. I think everybody ought to have to play. So I'd rather see 8 or 16. I wasn't a big fan of the 12, but it's better than this. It's better than this. Every year there's a good team left out. This year, again, might be the exception. I root for chaos, but it isn't like whoever gets left out is going to have a pretty weak argument, and it's because there's going to be lots of reasons for them being left out. Everybody will point out the good wins and what else. They won't point out the bad losses and just plain, the eye tests. Three times. All right. But that's not like, year after year. Alabama, Clemson, year after year till last year. I think this will be the first year I think there's been any playoff without it, either Alabama or Clemson. And many of those years, it's been both of them. It's not all brand names, Kenny. Again, I just gave, and USC is a brand name, by the way, but hasn't been relevant in 2 decades almost, 15 years. TCU, not a brand name. And yeah, I mean, it depends on your definition of a brand name, right? But again, if the brand names are the best teams, that's how they become the brand names. People buy them. Same way with cereal, right? Kellogg's became, the leader in, I'm making it up, I think they are, the leader in breakfast cereals because they sold the most. Sean Watson will be cleared to play Monday from suspension. Oh, there's exciting news. We really care about that, Alan. Do me a favor, Alan. Post all the news you want. Do not post any more Deshaun Watson news on my feeds. It's nothing against you. I just don't. I don't want to talk. I have no idea. Oh, I see. I don't want to talk about Deshaun Watson. I'm going to have to, I guess, when he plays. But let's just talk about his play because he makes me sick. That whole situation makes me sick. Oklahoma's been 4 times, 15, 17, 18. I'm going to have to do. You may be right, Kenny. I don't know, and I don't really. I'm not going to take the time to look. I'll defer to Alan to fact check that because he is the Oklahoma fan. General Mills is bigger than Kellogg's. No, you're probably right. Billy Pulver, where are you? I vote Cheerios. I don't know how I got on breakfast cereals. That's the most interesting. That's the most interesting analogy I think I've ever come up with. Oh, I just gave you some what? I gotta go back and look at Rick's last comment or what? I think I missed a comment. We're gonna move into the NFL now. Anyway, we can go back. That's enough for this. We're gonna talk, for an hour and a half about the college on Wednesday night. We'll get deeper into this. We'll look at the conference matchups and everything. And at the end of the show, if we got some time, we'll go backwards. But let's get into the NFL. And I did see, I know I had a comment that I kind of blew Rick off about. I don't really did. Why can't I? Oh, there we go. What was that, Rick? What'd you put up here? Something about Sean Payton. Here it is. As we get started, Alan, mark it down. Fred Flintstone will F up in the playoffs, making room for Sean Payton. I didn't read the end of that. Don't doubt that. Sean Payton will be back in the NFL next year. I have zero doubt about it. I think he's done some TV, right? He's been on, I think, with the Fox guys. Not week in and week out, but I've seen him there. Don't think that's his future. I don't think he's anywhere as close to being done as a coach. And I do think we'll see Sean Payton back next year somewhere. Whether it's in Dallas or not, I guess remains to be seen. That'll play itself out. Got to get back down here. Oh, I gave you some ammo. Again, I can't get into the brand name argument because playing the field is what gets you into the playoff. I guess there's been a couple of years. Yes, if it comes down and the resumes are similar between, let's just say, at Alabama or Central Florida, Alabama's going to get it every time. I won't disagree with that because they also have to have people watching and people buy tickets. Because, as you say, Kenny, it's about the money. And at the same time, it's about getting the best teams in there. Anyway, CA, don't knock cereals. I'm not knocking cereals. I was just using them as an analogy. I used to love Raisin Bran. And I do eat cereal as a dessert sometimes. Yeah, straight out of the box. Try to find some healthier stuff, that's all. How about them Cowboys? Listen, the Cowboys played well. Your Thanksgiving games Thursday, really, well, I guess the Giants and Cowboys were ended up being a bit of a stinker, but the Giants were ahead at halftime. So there were 3 entertaining games, Buffalo and Detroit. Buffalo really could have lost that game very easily. I mean, they did not play that well on defense, especially after Von Miller went down. They continue to turn the ball over at an alarming rate. Buffalo needs to clean things up here these last 6 games that they have. 2 of those against the Patriots, by the way. The Cowboy game, Cowboys showed they're good. And again, Dak's a good quarterback in the regular season. They still have to show me something, Alan. I told you this on your roundtable show the other day. And by the way, catch Alan's weekly roundtable on Let's Talk Sports. He's doing a really good job as he gets that show started. And I had a lot of fun doing it with him last Wednesday night, I guess. But as I've said to you many times, Dak needs to show me something when the chips are all on the line. There's a lot of good quarterbacks, really good regular season quarterbacks who failed time after time after time in the playoffs. Dan Fouts, Ken Anderson. I had to go back a ways, but I could probably think of some more recent. Oh, God. Try Fruity Pebbles with French toast. I never should have brought up cereal. It sounds awesome, though, Kenny. Yeah, Cowboys control their own destiny in the division. A lot of teams control their own destiny right now for the playoffs. In fact, you control your own destiny to get to the Super Bowl and win. That's win games. That's your destiny. The Cowboys still need to show me they can win important games. They've got out of the first round twice since Dak's been there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alan. I don't think I'm wrong. Can't wait for the Eagles to come to Dallas for a beating. Listen, it should be a good game. Dallas, where do they get all these tight ends, by the way? I mean, there must have been 4 tight ends that they used that all contributed to that victory on Thursday. I was worried about the weapons that Dak had at his disposal. He's got 2 of the best wide receivers. And CJ Lamb's becoming, I've said for a while that Jefferson in Minnesota is the best player in the NFL. I saw CJ Lamb make some plays very similar to Jefferson. And they got a really good team. So, again, prove to me you can win in the playoffs. That's the litmus test. I'm sorry. Go to playoffs year after year. Tennessee gets to the playoffs year after year. What happens there? Baltimore gets to the playoffs year after year. What happens there? Buffalo. At least they've gotten to the AFC Championship game. When Dak and the Cowboys play in an NFC Championship game, I'll tell you they've arrived. Until then, I just don't care. Pats Vikes game was very interesting. I was a little shocked that the Patriots didn't run the ball more, but the Vikings pass defense, their pass rush specifically is one of the worst in the NFL. Sorry, Rick, I'm sure you realize that by now. And I think that was a game plan. Mac Jones looked as good as he looked ever. Probably throwing a ball down the field, he threw it better than he has ever. Problem is the weapons don't help out. I mean, when they had the ball back, not the last time, but the time before that with a couple minutes left, he threw a great pass on third down, I believe, down the field, right at the pylon, and Nelson Aguilar runs the wrong route, turns the wrong way. He should have been open for that pass. Horrible play. Special teams were awful. The 100-yard or whatever it was kick return. Now, I'll get into a couple of plays that really irked me, but I will not tell you when I get into them that I think in any way, shape, or form they cost the Patriots a game, because you know how I feel. You do not let referees beat you. You don't put yourself in a position to get beat by referees. Patriots did not play well enough to win. But there was a couple iffy calls there. I mean, and the Patriots, again, by the way, just to finish up the thought on the Patriots special teams, Jones catching a ball at the goal line with 50 seconds left was stupid. Oh. 2 plays irked me in that game, though. And again, we got away with a block in the back on a win against the Giants on the punt return at the end of the game. Again, I said the same thing to Jet fans. Don't put yourself in a position to get beat. I say the same thing to my fellow Patriot fans. Don't put yourself in a position to get beat. Doesn't mean I can't complain about the calls. Kyle Duggar got grabbed and spun around at the point where the Patriots lost containment on that kick return. Call gets missed. That stuff happens. Not that big a deal. But again, please don't tell me the Patriots get all the calls. Please stop with that nonsense. And second of all, there's a rule that's got to change. Now, by rule, the call with Hunter Henry was the right rule. He caught the ball. He had broken the plane with possession, but you got to go to the ground, and he did not. You got to go to the ground with the ball. But the fact that the NFL has a rule that is different if you're running the ball than if you're catching the ball is stupid. If Hunter Henry had caught that ball at the 5-yard line, got to the 1 and lunged, the ball breaks the plane and the play's over. Well, he catches the ball, has possession over the goal line, then loses it. The play should be, again, if the rules were the same. I understand what the rule is, and the play was called correctly. But to have 2 different rules for runners and passers are ridiculous. I mean, how many times you see runners just hold the ball out over the pylon and run out of the 1? It's a touchdown. But a pass catcher can catch the ball, have possession, over the goal line, don't take it to the ground, not a catch. It's just, it's foolish to have these rules like this. And again, I want to make sure for anybody who didn't hear me not saying that cost the Patriots a game. They didn't play well enough on special teams or defense in general to win this game. End of story. But these rules got to be looked at. That's just a silly rule. He's won twice in 4 years. Games. 1 game. Again, what I'm talking to you about is getting to an NFC Championship game, winning a game of relevance. First game of the playoffs, 7 teams are in the playoffs in each league, 6 maybe for some of those years. Winning 1 playoff game does nothing for me. My team, you think I was ever happy when my team went and won one playoff game and then lost in a divisional round? Never. Win more than 1 game. He's played more than 4 years, by the way, Alan. If you're counting 4 years he made the playoffs, you also have to count the years he didn't make the playoffs. You don't get to just pick the years that make the playoffs. Golden Richards. Alan, you better tell me you know who Golden Richards is. And don't be Googling them either. Cowboys have 3 bad AFC South teams in a row, and then the Eagles Christmas Eve. CeeDee Lamb. No, listen, I didn't get what I say. I have no idea what I said. I thought I said Lamb. I probably said something else with CD. Great player. And Gallup's a good player. They got good teams. Listen, go win and get to a championship game. I'm not even telling you to win it. I'm telling you to get to one. Layman, Gallup, and soon OBJ. Listen, OBJ does make this team much more dangerous. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to quarterback play, and Dak has got to show that he is one of the top guys. Sorry. This game's about winning in the playoffs. Not twice in 6 years. One game every couple of years. No, Patriots did a good job against Cook, but they did a horrible job against Jefferson, and he's the best player in football in my mind. I've seen enough of him now to know he's the best wide receiver for sure, and very likely, I think, the best player in football. He makes some catches that are just remarkable in double coverage. You know, the Patriots, as far as running the football, I mean, I understand it again because you look at that, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This Minnesota pass defense is not great, and part of that reason is because of lack of pass rush. So the defensive backs may be better than what we think. I mean, Peterson's a great player. What a great play he made, by the way, on the last drive when the Patriots had already taken a sack and we're at like the 1 yard line because the idiot catches the ball in the end zone, tries to return it. They get a ball out to the flat. Again, I'm not saying the Patriots are in a position to win this game, but at least they're in a position to get the ball near midfield the next play. But what a show of strength, just keeping the receiver in bounds. What a great play by Peterson, and a key play to keep the Patriots from having any chance there. Mac played very well. And listen, anybody who wants to think there's a quarterback controversy or the Patriots will be looking for a quarterback in the future, just watch the film from Mac here. Mac's had a tough year this year. Everybody has injuries, but it's set him back. He's trying to learn a new offense. And you saw a more confident, now he had time to throw the football, but you saw a more confident, in control, making smart decisions, Mac Jones in Thursday night than you'd seen all year. Since I'd seen maybe since like week 14 last year. So excellent job by Mac Jones, and hopefully this gets him over the hump. Patriots still with a shot to make the playoffs. They're right now on the outside looking in. I still think 9 wins gets you in the AFC. There's certainly 3 wins on the Patriots schedule. They're at Arizona, who's terrible. They're at the Raiders, who are terrible. And they have somebody else at home, and so it's skipping me. Now they can win those 3 games alone. They don't have to. They got Buffalo twice. Maybe they split with them, but and again, the way Buffalo's playing, it's possible. They got Miami at home, but even if they lose all of those games, they win the other 3, they'll be in. JJ wanted Matthew to replace Romo. Stafford. Dak's opportunity was successful in Matthew? Stafford? Dak's opportunity was successful enough that he couldn't afford to hassle and cost the PR nightmare of the times. Don't disagree. Dak's a good quarterback. Dak puts up great numbers. I saw something on Facebook, though, that says after Thursday, Dak Prescott is the MVP of the league. No, he's not. He played good football. Tua, who, by the way, I called absolutely wrong before the year, is probably the MVP right now. Right now. There's a lot of football to be played. No, he wasn't mugged on almost every play. Go back and watch. First of all, he was wide open on most of the plays, so you don't get mugged when you're wide open. And give the defensive backs a chance to. If you're going for the football, you get a chance to make contact. Come on, Rick. I mean, you can't be as big a homer to never look at things rationally. I don't. He was not mugged on every play. They tried to let Jones play with him, and he couldn't play him one-on-one. I'm unsure why we were trying that tactic. But, come on, you didn't mug him on every play. Thank you for that. I'm always going to say that. I will never. I can complain about individual calls or rules that I don't like, but I'll never tell you we lost because of a referee's play, which I've had to listen to our opponents say for 2 decades. There's a Mad New Yorker. Good evening or good morning, Carlos. There's one more. There's one more than the great Tony Romo. That's one more. Oh, one more than the great Tony Romo. Tony Romo, who I can't stand to listen to most times, is a better announcer than he was a quarterback. And he's not a very good announcer. You need to represent me in special teams coach. I didn't get that before, Rick. Now I get it. Thank you. I was afraid you left a letter there out. That would have been unfortunate. I think he wants a job at Austin P, Carlos, special teams coach at Austin P. I think that's all they need to get them over the top and, competing on the FBS 1 level, if that's what they choose to do. Or they can continue to take, $1 million from Alabama every year and get their ass kicked. What we got here? Morocco winning over Belgium or not depending. I'm not sure what we got there. I know it's the World Cup. I'm just not following all the things going on. USA against Iran. I was going to talk about the World Cup a little bit at the end if we get to it. USA with a must-win over Iran on Tuesday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Bills lose Von Miller. Big loss. Drew, I mentioned that, I think, maybe at the top of the show. I don't remember. But the Bills' defense, you can see the difference. And again, Von Miller's not the player, of course, that he was at Denver. He's probably not even the player he was last year with the Rams. But he's a veteran presence. And I talk about leadership a lot. And I know there's certain unnamed audience members who don't believe in leadership as mattering. Well, it does. Von Miller's helped that defense a lot this year. That defense did not play as well when Von Miller went out. It's a little up in the air. He didn't have, I believe, no tears or whatever. But he could be out 2 weeks or he could be out the season. So that's not a good sign for the Bills. Well, are the Bills in trouble? They're 8-3. They're leading the division. They went to the AFC Championship without Von Miller. They went to the AFC Championship with basically the same offense. Josh Allen gets his arm healthy, which by all accounts he looked much, much better as far as his arm injury on Thursday. Bills need to clean up the turnovers. Last year, they were very good about not turning the ball over. This year, a different story, including Josh Allen. But he's a generational talent who can carry this team a long, long ways. And I know there's a group of people out there who will tell me I say running quarterbacks can't win. I don't look at Josh Allen in the same way I look at Lamar Jackson or Josh Fields or, guys who are Randall Cunningham, those types of running quarterbacks. I just feel Josh Allen's not the same guy as those guys when it comes to playing quarterback because he can sit back there in a pocket and pick you apart when that's what it calls for. That's a pot calling the kettle black? Homer? What are we talking about? Clarify yourself, Kenny. Clarify yourself. If it's me, you need to tell me what I'm called a pot. I'm talking a lot. I say a lot of things here, so you got to tell me what I said. Was the pot calling kettle black? Because I'll be glad to address it and explain my rationale. Oh, wait, I know what it was. It's got to be about the referees. And by the way, I would like to know I do still want to know what you mean, because I do have an argument against if it's what I think it is, it's a ridiculous comment. The Austin P job, but you could probably be the head coach at Austin P, Rick. I wouldn't sell yourself short. Video assistant replay. Derek Brooks is greatest inside linebacker of all time. Well, there's a random thought, CA. Maybe, but it's hard to compare eras. I would still say Dick Butkus was, because most of what he did on one leg. I would still call Dick Butkus probably the greatest inside linebacker of all time. Derek Brooks is a great player. My turn to get me going this week. I watched every play, and we see our team with some bias. Well, yeah, I agree. We do. But again, I saw, was there times where there was some contact? Yes. But we just talked about the fact that they've given offenses so much leeway. You can't touch a receiver today. And I see a lot of plays that could go either way, and they should just let them play. Jefferson's a very physical guy. Jefferson initiates a lot of contact on his own, if you watch, Rick, and I don't think you can deny that, which is good, because if you're a receiver, then you're going to get some calls. But, again, he's a great receiver, and he overcomes that. You should be able to, I'm not saying you should be able to tackle a guy. And if I'm not mistaken, there were a couple penalties called on the defensive backfield of the Patriots. Penalties have been one of the Patriots' downfalls this year. Was a downfall for him again this night. Special teams and penalties. Undisciplined football that you don't normally see out of Bill Belichick coach teams. Too many penalties week in and week out. Oh, I called Rick a homer. I'll get back to that. Multiple injuries today. Fields, injuries are. Cincinnati's going to have a tough time of it. I think I'm betting against Cincinnati today, and the team formerly known as the Redskins. We'll get to the picks here in a little bit, and then we'll do some baseball. Mike Williams still out. Listen. Herbert's played without his best wide receivers for most of the year. I think it looks like Keenan Allen will be at full speed today. Now he's still not got Mike Williams back out. It's been a while. Look, am I a homer in the fact that I root for my team? But I think I look at my team very rationally, not unbiased. It's impossible, right? But geez, I mean, look at the teams that I root for, the Yankees and the Mets. Mets. The Yankees and the Patriots. I'm very hard on them. Very hard on them. Again, I've told you that this team hasn't played well. The offensive line has been terrible. I tell you when my team is terrible. Every week. Every week. This is a game that was winnable. They didn't win. That's on them. I will always tell you, and I always have, and if you watch, and I haven't done it as much in the past because I try to stay off social media personally because I'm on so much here. I've always said, great game, so-and-so. You outplayed us. Always. Vikings outplayed us. Kirk Cousins played some great football. So am I a homer? I don't know if I would call myself a homer. I think Rick watching every one of those plays and saying that there was contact on every one of them is looking at that from a biased point of view. And again, I'm not saying I don't ever have biased point of views. Of course I do. But again, I just told you, there are Patriot fans out there who are still saying Hunter Henry caught the ball and it's a touchdown. I won't tell you that. I will tell you the rule's stupid, but I will tell you that the rule was also correctly implemented in that situation. That was the right call. I sit next to a guy, and believe me, Nobody outside of my family that I love more than my buddy Mark. And every play, and Mark, if you're watching this, I don't think you'll disagree. Every play that we don't get to call, he'll want to call. I sit there week after week and say, no, that's the right call. We roughed the passer. We didn't rough the passer. I think, and again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I've been doing this a long time now. I read a lot of the group message boards for all the teams: Vikings, Patriots, Giants, Jets, Packers. We're I think compared to most fans, I look at my team fairly realistically most of the time. I'm probably harder on them than I probably should be. But whatever, you can call me a homer. It's fine. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, I root for my team, and when they do things badly, I point them out. When they do things well, I point them out. And I don't mean anything bad. I mean, look at most fans are homers. It's not a derogatory thing. I don't think I'm calling Rick. I mean, again, I think he sees things through a different lens than I do. And again, maybe I'm seeing it through the same lens, right? And I see it a different way sometimes, especially those pass interference calls and the things on wide receivers and cornerbacks. Most of the times they could go either way, because the great wide receivers, the big physical wide receivers, which I wish to God I had one, even close to what Jefferson is, they initiate a lot of contact. That's why they're good. Chargers sneak in to win it all. That's a bold call there. But, interestingly enough, Kenny, if the Chargers get healthy, if the Chargers can hang in there, which right now I think they're in the playoffs. Where's my, had this up. Nope, they're not. Sorry. The Jets would be the 7th seed right now as we speak. Patriots 8 and out, and the Chargers 5-5, half a game behind the Patriots, which they'll catch up today. So again, I think they've done a great job hanging in there. Injuries on both sides of the ball. They get healthy. This is a very good team. Very good team. I still think the Chiefs are the class of the AFC. No, that's not necessarily true either. What I do is I defend my team where they deserve being defended. I've defended what? What have I defended them over them being picked on? If you pick on them and you tell me the referees have a bias towards the Patriots, I'll tell you, yeah, you're wrong. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely, without a doubt. If you watch the games, as many calls are missed for the Patriots that are given to them. Okay? If you're going to tell me that it matters that errors let out of a football, and that's that why the Patriots were so great, I'll tell you you're wrong. And every other team is doing it, and some of the most prominent quarterbacks in football at the time came out and said, yeah, I do the same thing. I put 2 more air in, I take air out. If you're going to tell me it's because of the Spygate thing, I'm going to tell you they're doing the same thing every other team in football is doing. That's all I've ever done. And you want to pick on Tom Brady and tell me he's not the best of all time, then I'll stick up for Tom Brady as well. So again, I don't blindly defend them. If they're wrong, I'll tell you. I'm a pepper. You're all pepper. I was going to have an original Dr. Pepper. A little early for Dr. Pepper. Love the commercials, by the way, on college football. Whatever they call. I don't even know what they call them now. I just love them. I think they're really good. I'm chuckling because you're right. Everybody's a homer down deep, but I do think that listen, I don't know. You guys don't sit there with me watching games week after week. I have often sat there with a bunch of Patriot fans and non-Patriot fans and had to disagree with them, tell them they're wrong about a call here, call there. So I don't blindly root for my team. And if we got away with something, I'll tell you we got away with something. On the punt return against the Jets last week, there was a block in the back on the return. Now, a fan with blinders on would say that wasn't a block in the back. It was. Refs didn't catch it, and play gets missed as much as it gets called, probably. They probably call that play almost every play in the NFL. Fact is, it was there. Fact is, they didn't call it. Game over. It's happened in the NFL for decades or more. Decades still, I guess. So yes, I'm chuckling because I'm having fun with the conversation as well. I'm not a homer. You're a homer. Kenny, I will say you're not a homer because you root against everybody, man. So you're probably the one guy who's not a homer. Well, maybe with Notre Dame. I don't know. All right, what else do I want to get here to? What else is going on around the league before I get to the picks? Stafford's listen, Matthew Stafford's season may be over for the Rams, and if I were the Rams, I'd shut him down probably because they're not going anywhere. So I'd probably shut him down. Drew talked about some of the injuries that were out there, so I'll skip over those. I certainly don't want to talk about that jerk. Sorry. It's funny. Alan had posted this in our group chat the other day, and I see it here in front of me. Giants and Cowboys draw a record 42 million. They make it sound like that's a record. Viewership is down so much. And again, there's so many more choices for people, which is why it is. But 42 million people is a record for this year. I'll bet you if you go back 30 years, there were 5 times that many people watching the games on Thanksgiving. So that's all relevant. What's your Rick guy here? I thought you were pretty quiet when we were at the recovery room. I don't either, Rick. I don't get offended by anything, including being called a homer. Trying to remember, we weren't even playing though, were we? What was that, 2 weeks ago? Last week I couldn't make it up there. Were we playing at that time? I think we played. We must be playing. Yeah, we must have been playing that day. I don't remember whether they won or lost now. Isn't that terrible? I get loud when my team plays well, but I just don't scream and yell at that's bullshit. I'll say it's a bad call if I think it's a bad call. There are blind homers who say their team's always great, but I guess this is what I'm trying to get at. And there are those realistic ones who can be objective. Objective is the words I've been looking for. And again, I'm not saying you're not objective, Rick. I mean, I think you know that, your quarterback is not all world. And we talk about Dak, and my quarterback's not all world. He's got a long ways to go. I like what he can bring, but I'm objective. I don't say, while acknowledging both sides of the equation. It's a good point. We get into for a little while, I did the NSC show with the Philly sports guy. He needed a Redskins guy. Sorry, team formerly known as a Redskins guy. And I pretended to be a Redskins fan because he couldn't find anybody. When he did, I was never comfortable with it, by the way. Well, we were talking about, every one of these guys thought their team was going 16-1, and that's not realistic. That's blind homerism, right? And I try to acknowledge, right? I'm sure there are times, because if you disagree with me, you're always going to call me a homer, right? Look, I disagreed with Rick, so I called him a homer. Fandom can be very delusional, even with HD replay. The NFL should, but won't take a lot of the blame for that. It's a very good point. replay's been bastardized so much. But again, I think the league doesn't care. The league wants blind allegiance to their teams. And I have, to a certain extent, I have blind allegiance to my team in the sense that I will never root for anybody else. You know how many guys, and some of you guys, and I don't, I don't really mean to disparage you, but I don't understand people who root for two teams. Now, there are people who maybe don't have an allegiance to one team or are just football fans, and Drew, you might fall into this, and they just root for the game that's on and, root for certain players, whatever. But if you are a fan and claim to be a fan of one team, as I do, I don't ever root for somebody else. My money's on them. I might root for them to win. You know any fans that I've talked to, Patriot fans, who have become quasi-Buccaneer fans because Tom Brady's there? Never once have I rooted for Tom Brady to win unless I had money on him since he left the Patriots. He's not a Patriot anymore. One team. That's it. I know guys that are huge Giant fans, and they say, I also root for the Jets. Fan is short for fanatic, and fanatic, if in fanaticism, I don't think it allows you the leeway to root for like everybody. So in that sense, I guess I'm a homer. Not even going to mention the guy's name. I'll have to mention it eventually. Homer Jones, good evening or good morning. What? I can't get the time right today. Mark Robertshaw, good to have you with us. Homer Jones is a legitimate homer. Don't think that's his legal name, though. 50 plus years makes me a homer. Agreed. Listen, I don't disagree. And Bill, and I will give you the Bills and your Bills Vikings game. Yeah. By the way, the Bills gave you the game. When you look at it realistically, right? The Vikings have no chance if they don't fumble the ball into the end zone. I just don't know if I had a game on at that time. My own game, Rick. I spent a lot of time watching the Bills, so I'm thinking I didn't. Homer Simpson. Now that Homer might be his legal name, and I don't know about Homer Bailey. Maybe Homer is Homer Jones' legal name. Now that I think about it, these all might be legitimate legal names. How the heck did we get on this conversation, man? Let's take a quick look at. I didn't get the thing up here. Let me do it right now while we're chatting. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I want to bring up the pick'em, and I'll try to share my screen. I don't know if it helps you for me to share my screen or not, but I will. I got to get to my games. I should have had this open, and I don't. I will tell you, TGI Sports Talk is on a little bit of a run. Can't seem to make a run in Drew's pool, but I'm making a run here. All right, let me share this and get rid of this. Maybe get rid of this for right now. And let me share. Bear with me 1 second. We're almost there. All right. We should have, and again, remember, I'm not going to be on the screen. Hopefully that's big enough for you guys to see. We'll look quickly at, fell backwards, didn't I? Last week's Drew. Oh, by the way, Drew's been moving up here too. I did notice that the other day. Last week, Drew CA Boomer Sooner makes a little run. The TGI Sports Talk actually had a bad week last week. I was making a little bit of a run. Obviously, I haven't looked closely at this. Mad New Yorker with 50, Headless Horseman, and then we fall down to the guys who are starting to fall out. This week so far, by the way, Pedro T's picks are 3-0. I'm not sure who that is. Steve Craw has 2. Drew has 2 out of 3, and then the rest of us have 1. And overall, here's our overall leader. Steve Craw still there, and we're still trying S Craw. I say Steve Craw, but I don't know why I say that. S Craw is still there. I'm not sure still who he is. CA is 2 games behind him. We'll do it over here. Drew has moved into 3rd place ahead of TGI Sports Talks with 80. TGI Sports Talk has 79. Boomer Sooner making a run here. 76. Waldo, 74, still hanging in there, only 10 behind. Headless Horseman, don't remember who that is. 69. 68 for ESPN fan, blah, blah, blah. And the Mad New Yorker's at 590. I think 59. Sorry, he's missed some games. And then we've got, of course, the guys who have given up on the season. So let's get into this week's games, guys. And so far, Keith has only got 1 winner. I picked the Bills minus 9.5 over the Lions. The Lions, listen, the Lions, if they managed to pull this game out, would have had themselves in contention, or at least in a conversation for a wild card berth. They haven't played bad offensively. Their defense up and down. Jared Goff at times, and the Bills defense made them look like Joe Montana a couple of times. They've got a pretty good offense, but they did end up finding a way to lose that game. They tied it, went in overtime, and it took me 30 seconds. 30 seconds, I guess a minute and a half to walk inside a restaurant and sit down, and the Bills were already kicking a field goal at the end of regulation. I did have the Giants plus 9.5, so we got a winner there. But my blind loyalty, my homerism, again, this is where I cannot be rational. I will never pick against my team to lose. Can't do it. So the Patriots don't get it done. I actually thought they had a chance to win that game, and that was a winnable game for them. So on to the today's picks. I will go with Tampa Bay over the Browns. Buccaneers playing a little bit better, coming off a bye week, going to Germany the week before. The Browns, they're waiting around for that criminal whatever to show up. They're going to lose today. I like the Buccaneers minus 3.5. The Bengals, I'm switching my pick here because of some of the injuries. I'm going with the Titans at home, even though I think Henry's in here. Never crazy about Ryan Tannehill, but the Bengals are so banged up. Their offensive line has been so bad. And Joe Burrow is fortunate still to be standing upright. So I will take the Titans here. A lot of points. At home, though, the Dolphins, minus 12.5 over the Texans. Listen, I was so wrong about Tua. He's played great. He's probably the NFL MVP as of right now. There's still games to play, but I was wrong. I said his accuracy was bad. He's completing 70% of his passes. It's not just the wide receivers. He's played really good football. Again, another example of my being realistic. And when I'm wrong, I will tell you I'm wrong. I'm not going to continue to root against somebody, right? The Jets changing their quarterback to Mike White today. Zach Wilson getting benched after very uneven performances. I don't think that the Jets should be giving up on this kid. I think they have not done him right by the way he's been coached up, the way they call plays. I think they should have found a way to keep John Beck as his quarterback coach, but I think the Jets had no choice but to bench him now. If only for the comments he made after the game last week when he was asked directly, do you feel like you let down your defense? And he said, no. His father called him right after that as he's getting on the bus and said, dude, what are you doing? There's only one answer to that question. Yes. And for him not understanding that alone shows a lack of maturity. And that's where Zach Wilson needs to really, really get it together. He's not grown into this job. He's not matured into this job. And we can talk a little bit about that once we get through these picks. I will take the team formerly known as the Redskins at home. I think this is too little. I think Washington could win this game by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to take the Panthers just because the Broncos and Russell Wilson are so bad. I will take the Panthers getting 2.5 at home. Again, this is a team that's no better than the Panthers. Don't know how they're getting points at home. The Ravens going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, the Jags have played some close games, many close games this year. They haven't found a way to win. They need to learn how to win. I like getting 4.5 here at home. This could be a field goal game, so I will take the Jaguars with the 4.5 points. The Chargers I like a lot, even though Mike Williams is out. Keenan Allen coming back is good. Eckler's really good. The Chargers are going to get healthier and healthier. To Kenny's point, this is a team, should they get in the playoffs, could be very dangerous if they're getting healthy and getting all their people back at that time and really starting to gel. We'll see. The Seahawks, they're still doing it. I don't know how they're doing it. Smoke and mirrors. Kenneth Walker III has stepped up really well since Penny got hurt and out for the year. Is Geno Smith going to continue to do what he's been doing here? I will take him minus the 3.5 at home here, only because the Raiders have played so bad. But this is a desperate football team. I wouldn't be surprised if they went into Seattle and won, but I will take Seattle. I'll lay the wood here with the Chiefs minus 14.5. It's a big spread, but how are the Rams going to score? How? Unless it's on defense, this team is this is the worst post Super Bowl winning team I can remember. Maybe somebody can come up with a better one, but I can't. There's been Super Bowl hangovers, right? And teams miss the playoffs, but this team's liable not to win another game. I've had trouble getting on the 49ers bandwagon. I will do it this week. That offense is really starting to learn how to play together with McCaffrey and Samuel, and they're learning how to use them. And Jimmy G's played effective football. The team is starting to get on a bit of a roll. And that West is so bad. So I will take the 49ers over the Saints today. And if you guys have comments, which I'm sure you do, we'll get to them in a second. I'll take the Eagles over the Packers tonight. Packers are just awful. And in a game tomorrow night that I'm sure nobody will be watching, I'm going to take the Colts and Jeff Saturday to beat the hapless Pittsburgh Steelers by more than 2.5. All right, let's see what we got here. Let me stop sharing so you get to see my huge head. There we go. So, whoops. Let's see what we got for comments here. Oh, gosh, we got a bot in the room again. Oh, Watson's doing a great job. I know what that's about. Who did you pick in the Pats game, Homer? What again? I thought. Listen, I think I commented during that picks. I will never pick against my team ever. I mean, that's not necessarily the same as what we were just talking about. It's totally different. If I was to tell you every time the Patriots lost, they should have won, well, then I'd be a homer. And I actually legitimately thought they had a chance to win that game. I know Fournette's out in the Tampa game. I don't care. Browns are not any good. And this guy's got to get blocked. If you guys are looking for hot girls, you can click on the link that's in the... It's your last chance because I'm blocking him. We get one of these at least a week. Oh, guess we got more than one because I got to block 2 of them here. Ugh. These bots are getting ridiculous. Fields is out. We just talked about his style of play. And again, Fields has been their offense. They don't have anybody else. The kid they got from the Steelers, I mean, he's a decent wide receiver, but the offensive line is terrible. The running game is pedestrian at best. And Fields, that's he's been playing great football, and they let him loose to run it. But again, listen, this kid got hurt. Again, I talked about QB1 on Netflix. you go back to then, he was getting hurt then in high school. Yeah, Akers is back as a lead back. You know what, Drew? Any one of you guys in this room, as old as we are, could go there and gain 1 year to play like Akers. Terrible, man. You're going to pick NFL games, LO, but nice graphics. I'm not sure what I did there. I'm not sure. Either thank you or I'm sorry. I don't know if that was Linda or Mac. Heard Cleveland has a new guy calling play now. But the problem is he's still got my boy Jacoby Brissett and no weapons except Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's a nice player. Can't do it all alone. I'll be rooting for Nick Chubb today because I got him on 2 fantasy teams. But you keep putting that name up, I'm not going to say it. When he's playing and I will. It's certainly a different experience, Rick. I'll tell you that. So, anyway, we'll move on. Talk a little MLB because I'm sure Drew's got some stuff to bring up. We'll get you guys up to speed here. To me, the big news this week, and there was some big news. Angels made some trades, but the biggest news is Bryce Harper underwent Tommy John surgery here this week, and he's going to miss the first half of next year. That's a huge loss for the Phillies. They lost him for a good portion of last year. He couldn't play the outfield even when he came back, and he's certainly a good defensive outfielder. And the Phillies could have used good defensive outfielders if you saw the way they played. Marsh is good, but the other guys they had in the corners were just atrocious. Bryce Harper being out really puts these Phillies in a bad spot to start the season for sure. The Angels make a couple of trades. Gio Urshela they bring in from the Twins. Nice move. I like Gio Urshela. Didn't have a great year last year, but did some good things with the Yankees. They brought in Hunter Renfroe, who, still a decent player. I think he's on the downside, but the big thing I see here is here's the Angels again. What don't we see in any of these moves? Pitchers. Angels are so mismanaged. They don't understand that even with the game today, pitching, defense, and timely hitting wins championships. The game's changed, but that statement really still rings true. Look at the teams that are talented and hitting the ball out of park, like the Yankees. By the way, no blind homerism here. The Yankees are full of holes, which I've talked about for 3 years now. The Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers to a certain extent. The teams that win and have won over the last few years, the Astros, the Braves, the Nationals, I would even say. Good pitching, good defense, timely hitting. Do they hit some home runs? Yes. Everybody hits home runs. But the Angels just don't get it. They never bring in any pitchers that are any good. Oh, they brought Ohtani in. And he's a good pitcher. He finished 4th in a Cy Young Award. The rest of their starters are terrible. Their bullpen is terrible, and it has been for quite some time. Still got a few minutes left here. Mike Maddox returns to the Rangers. Mike Maddox, very good pitching coach. Has had a couple of stints now with the Rangers. I think he was with the Brewers at one point. Again, I'm not sure exactly where he's been in his career. My screen keeps flashing on and off on me here. Very good move by the Rangers to bring him back and work with this pitching staff, I think. Again, I still think the Rangers are a year or two away, but bringing in Bochy, now bringing in Maddox, good moves, I think. Carlos Santana signs with the Pirates for 1 year. Nobody cares. The Pirates are terrible. This is indicative of how bad the Pirates are, right? This is their idea of a big free agent signing. Aaron Judge news. We probably talked about this last week. He did meet with the Giants this week. They're talking about how great it went. He does have an offer on the table from the Yankees, which I'm sure they'll release to make him look bad once he says no, because they, probably the Yankees thought they were going to put an offer on the table and he wasn't going to talk to anybody. Well, he didn't take himself to free agency not to feel out what's out there. I really don't think the Giants can contend for Aaron Judge. And by the way, why do people think that's his hometown? He grew up rooting for the Giants. That's fine. He didn't grow up in San Francisco. He grew up about 2.5 hours away, right? And he lives in Tampa. I would say the Dodgers and the Mets are the only real threats. Because the rest of them, the Giants could pay him, but how are they going to put a team around him? They don't have that. They don't have the resources that the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers have. Those are the three teams to watch in my mind. All right, now I'll let you guys get involved here. Brissett I'm not talking about the other guy until I have to. Baseball's daily, football's weekly, so football is 6. Wow. Too much math, Drew. Too much math. Just kidding. Steinbrenner claims Peraza and they will get a look this spring. I think that's going to be the story of the spring. They signed IKF. Kinder Flaffa. But that has nothing to do with him being a starting shortstop next year. All along, they projected him to be a utility player. One of these kids, I think, will step up, if not both. You could see one of them. You might see this being a second and shortstop combination for years to come. The plan last year, why they didn't go after Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, it was because they wanted to wait for the kids. So it makes no sense now, which is one of the reasons they got to sign Aaron Judge. Who are they going to replace him with? The best free agents out there are all shortstops. Not that there's some other good players around. So I think they will get a look this spring. I think they're ready. Now is the time. We used to argue with Carlos. They weren't ready. Now they're ready to find out. It's time to find out if they're ready. They've done what they can do at AAA. They're not going to get better playing more games at AAA. Harper will now be able to make his name more notable. Who's the last guy who played with the Phillies that became a national figure in commercials and marketing? I don't remember anybody. Mike Schmidt, greatest third baseman of all time, maybe. How many national commercials did he get? I never hit a homer. Yeah, but you had a lot of key hits, Kenny. Kenny was a scrappy player. Right? Yeah, if I'm a Giant fan, I'm excited about this, right? I got Carlos Santana and Choi platoning at first base. They're talking about trading Brian Reynolds again during this offseason. The only guy they got with any kind of futures, Brian Hayes, and I'm not even sure he's a player yet. Look at some of his numbers from last year. Good defensive player, but he's still behind the 8 ball here on offense. Got a good bloodline. His dad was a really good player. Yankees still need to see. They don't need to see more. They need to see if they're ready to play. That's it. So now I'm on the other side of the argument you and I have had for 2 years, Carlos, that they weren't ready to play. That's why they were in the minor leagues, and they pay a lot. They pay these guys who are part of player development lots of money to make those decisions. They see them play in the minor leagues every day. They know when they're ready to get a shot. And if that shot's now, it's because they said they were ready. That's why Peraza got a shot at the end of the season. Didn't get a chance to play a lot. But the Yankees know that IKF's not a long-term solution at shortstop. I wouldn't be surprised if they both play well in the spring. They either move Torres to the outfield or trade him for pitching, possibly. Not a huge Torres fan. Last year, we had the argument during the season, I would not have traded Torres for pitching. Now I might do it, depending on the growth of these kids. And can I get rid of Donaldson's contract along with whoever I trade? And maybe Cabrera can be the third baseman next year, or the left fielder, depending on who else they sign in free agency. I'd love to see them bring Benintendi back and Judge back. And now I got a really good outfield defensively. I got a couple of guys who can put the ball in play. It isn't home run or nothing in Bader and Benintendi. Terrible. Just start the kids and move on. You can't just start the kids. You have to know if they can play. It's not terrible. I don't know what you're talking about. What's terrible? They had a plan. They've stuck with it, and they're going to follow through. This I don't have a problem with. Santana will play again. Carlos Santana might be close to the same age as the other Carlos. It is, right? His name is Carlos too, right? They might be close to the same age. Scott Boras, well, that's what he does, Drew, right? I mean, the problem is, and I don't know who Judge's agent is. I hope it's not Burrows. I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me. What's going to happen is everybody waits for the top free agents to sign, basically, and then it's a trickle-down effect. So once the Verlanders, the DeGroms, the Judges all settle somewhere, then you'll start to see some movement. The snow hasn't stopped yet, so get off the baseball unless it's snow buddy ball. Got to talk. This is, listen, the NFL talks a year round. We can talk baseball. These are important things. Sometimes I agree, and that's what they did with Peraza. I think they did it with Jeter in '95. 95 when they played Seattle in the playoffs. He wasn't going to play, but it was invaluable experience that he got. He was going to be the starting shortstop the next year, and they knew that. And he got to play a little bit during the end of the season, and he did get some great experience sitting on that bench. Yeah, and Carlos Santana is probably, the other Carlos Santana is probably 65. Just kidding. Seems like it. How come these guys seem like they're around forever? I just don't, I never get it. All right. We still got a few minutes left. If you guys got any more topics, let me look real quick. I want to look at if there's any other news going on here, free agent wise, that I haven't seen overnight. Got the wrong mouse. And there'll be a lot of talk going on. By the way, nice signing by the Yankees bringing back Rizzo for sure. We talked about that. We talked about the Angels and Hunter Renfroe. Cody Bellinger's we talked about getting non-tendered. I think we talked about it last week. Has a guy ever dropped off the face of the earth from, MVP to what Cody Bellinger's done so fast? Who's going to sign this guy? Baseball players. That's it. God, I thought he was at least my age. Bob Horton won the World Knife Throwing Championship. Good point. Kenny wants to talk about, I was looking for something today. And we're going to do a little World Cup spot on Fridays on the Are You Serious show because Carlos is our World Cup guy. The U.S., me being an ugly American, all I care about is what the U.S. does, apparently. They have a big match, as I mentioned, against Iran on Tuesday at 1:00, and I believe they have to win. Carlos, if you're still here, you can correct me. I believe they have to win to advance to the knockout round. I don't think another draw helps them at all, given that Iran has a win and it's played pretty good. And there's been some surprises in this tournament as well. Japan playing well surprised me. Not, I don't think they got beat by Costa Rica yesterday. Or today. I guess that's today. But I don't remember the Asian countries playing that well in soccer. England, Germany, France, they played well over the years from Europe. But I don't remember, some of these teams like Morocco. Obviously not a Asian country, but there's some teams that are surprising me in some of these games. Yeah, that's why we haven't brought up the NBA. Rick, we're pretty much done with the NBA for a while until the Knicks get better. Yes, win, and if they score more, it helps. So the goals, the winning margin may come into play. I'm going to take my team. I've never done it. I'm going to take my team here after the holidays. We're going to do a little team building, and we're going to go axe throwing, which is huge now. I've never done it. I don't even know if I can hit the target. Some of them may throw it at me, which might be good for the team morale. I don't know about my own. But I think it'll be fun and something different to do. It's really big here in the Capital District, and I think across the country. Canada and Croatia coming up. I'm assuming soon. You want to come throw axes, Kenny? Hey, maybe for our next little team building for this team, maybe that's what we do, is go to one of the axe throwing places. I got to find out whether they still serve beer, though, because while I want beer, it feels like a dangerous situation. But we will go extra. I've never done it. I want to have some fun doing it. So we'll see. Well, guys, it's been an interesting hour. 2 hours. Sorry. We got to get ready to go and move on. We only got 2 minutes to get under the wire. Appreciate all your comments today, Drew and Rick, Eddie, Billy, Carlos, Alan, who disappeared a little bit. You can catch Alan on the Let's Talk Sports NFL pregame show here. Probably in a half an hour. So I was on that show myself a little while back. So I appreciate Anthony Price. I think you might have been here. CA, of course. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, well, we have a goalie. We'll need a goalie, Carlos. I think you would probably be a good goalie. Homers will be the targets. I worked at Troy on tap and watched them throw. Not the best idea for a group drinking session. Oh, guys, thanks for stopping in this morning. As always, I appreciate your guys' comments. Listen, we have fun. You're a homer. We're all homers. And I'm going to look around you guys up there so much as you want around. So we're going to have some fun with that every week. Drew, thank you. I think I said Drew, thank you. I don't know who else I didn't say. Whoever I missed, I apologize. You guys have a great, great Sunday. I'm going to get off to see my boys here a little bit, watch a little football, and then head home and rest. It's been a long weekend. So have a great, great, great Sunday.